Hello students, we are now in Unit 1 Indian Economic Development, which is Development Experience of India 1947 to 1990. And Chapter 1 has been completed. Today we will start Chapter 2 Indian Economy between 1950 to 1990. Now, this chapter will tell you about the goals of India's 5-year plans, about the developmental policies in different sectors such as agriculture, industry and also trade from 1950 to 1990. After you get the knowledge of these topics, you will be able to think about the merits and limitations of a regulated economy. Let us start the chapter 2. The chapter 2 here, the first topic that will be discussed is the goals of India's 5-year plans, which helps you to understand the process of economic planning pursued by the Indian government just after independence. But before going into the details of goals of India's 5-year plans, let us first have a quick recap of chapter 1, because here it is necessary for you to recapitulate some main points of chapter 1 as it helps you then to understand chapter 2 better. So let us quickly go through the points. Colonial exploitation of all sectors, that is agriculture, industry, trade. Backward and stagnant agriculture due to the zamindari system which was introduced under the British Raj. There was no industrial development apart from existing textile or jute industries. Also, there was destruction of handicraft industry. Trade was the monopoly of the British, that it was fully controlled by the Britishers, converting India into an exporter of raw materials and importer of finished goods. This led to a huge drain to economy's wealth. Because of the impoverishment of the three sectors under the British Raj, there was rampant poverty and high death rate, birth rate, and IMR, which is infant mortality rate in the country. And there was high dependence on the agricultural sector with no other job opportunities in the other sectors. So, even though there was infrastructural development that took place, it was for the expansion of the British Empire and smooth functioning of the British administration. In this context, in this backdrop, after independence, the new Indian government took drastic measures to uplift the impoverished state of the economy through a process of economic planning, which started the formulation of 5-year plans with definite targets. So, this is why I have gone into chapter 1, Indian economy state on the eve of independence, in order to help you able to grasp the points of economic planning process and the goals of 5-year plans better. Okay, so now the chapter overview. This is tells you about the topics that will be dealt with in this chapter, goals of 5-year plan. So these are economic systems and its types, origin and development of plans in India, meaning of economic planning, need for planning, long period and short period goals of planning in India. Let us start with the very first topic, economic system and its types. Now, when India attained its freedom, independence in 1947, the job at hand for the nation was to build the economy, and the leaders of the independent India had to immediately decide, among all other things, the type of economic system which was most suitable for the nation. So, in order to understand this very term economic system, we need to go to what are the types of economic systems. The very first type of economic system is capitalist economy or market economy. Let me mention here that there are three types of economic system in which we are starting with the first one, which is capitalist economy. The features of a capitalist or market economy is that there is private ownership of means of production. The private ownership here points out to the capitalists who are the private producers, the private owners of resources who own the means of production and hence are responsible for taking all production decisions in the economy. The central problems are solved through market mechanism, and the goal of such a system is always profit maximization. There is the government's role, but it is confined to law and order and defense of the economy. Such an economy ignores collective interests and poor people are deprived of their needs. Therefore, in such an economy, growth is without social justice. Now, I've also given some reference study material attached here because as you study the points, the features of capitalist economy, this reference material will help you to understand these topics better. Let us just understand what capitalism is all about through the points in these paragraphs. Now, since we are talking about the three main types of economic systems, how do economic systems get classified into the three types is solely because of how they decide to handle or deal with the three basic questions, which is what goods and services to produce, how those goods and services should be produced, and how these goods and services should be distributed. Now, this part was also done. These are the central problems of an economy, which was done in microeconomics in chapter 11. So I think you are able to remember some of those points. Now, the economic system decide to deal with or answer these basic questions in different ways. The very first system, which is the capitalist economy, decides the three questions with the help of market forces of supply and demand, which is then called market mechanism. So it is left to the market to decide which goods should be produced. So those goods, those consumer goods will be produced which are in demand, and the goods that are sold should be profitable also. So here comes the goal of profit maximization. Goods that can be sold profitably either in domestic or in foreign markets will be produced. So if cars in demand or bicycles in demand, it will be produced. The method that will be used, how the goods should be produced. If labor is cheap, labor intensive methods will be used. So because the capitalist society always wants to maximize, the producers want to maximize their profits. So they will go in for those goods and those techniques which maximize the profits. So far as the goods, the distribution is concerned, the goods produced are distributed among people not on the basis of what people need, but on the basis of purchasing power or the ability to buy the goods. So one who has the money can buy the goods. So this point here makes clear that capitalist system ignores collective interest. Poor people are deprived of their needs because, as you can see, only those who have the ability to buy the goods can purchase the goods. Therefore, even if poor are in need of housing facilities, it will not be counted as demand in such a market economy because they do not have purchasing power to back that demand. So I hope so far these points make it clear to you the capitalist type of economic system. Now, this type of economic system was not appreciated by Jawaharlal Nehru. So it is said here that such a society did not appeal Jawaharlal Nehru, our first Prime Minister, for it meant that great majority of people will be deprived of a good quality of life. The second type of economic system is the socialist or centrally planned economy. Now, the features of this system are, briefly, there is a collective or public ownership of means of production. Economic decisions are taken by a central authority. The central authority is of course a government body which is appointed by the government. Goals is to maximize social welfare in the economy. So, in a socialist society, you see the three questions, the three basic questions of what, how, and for whom to produce are answered in a different manner because the government decides what goods are to be produced in accordance with the needs of the society. So that is what it means here that economic decisions are taken by a central authority. It is assumed that the government knows what is good for the people and the government decides how goods are to be produced and how they should be distributed. And the principle of distribution under socialism is based on what people need and not on what they can afford to purchase. So this takes care of the very uh, point that growth should be with social justice. So in socialism, unlike capitalism, so you see here, unlike capitalism, socialism aims to provide growth with social justice. And so you see, socialist societies therefore provide free healthcare or any other free facilities for the citizens because it takes care of the point that distribution should be based on what people need. And the government is the owner of all resources. Strictly, a socialist society has no private property since everything is owned by the state. So that is the very first point. There is collective ownership or public ownership of means of production. So here we see the features of socialist society, but there was an inherent demerit in this society, which is that because there was no profit maximization principle, there was a slow growth in such economies. There is a slow growth as production is not guided by profit maximization. So the economies like China and also Soviet Union of Russia, which was the classic example of socialist economy, or Cuba, which is also mentioned here. These economies then switched over to market economy because of the slow growth in these economies. So the demerit of the socialist economy, this was the main demerit which then led to the collapse of such economies. So now you have most economies as mixed economies where the government and market together answer the questions of what, how, and for whom to produce. So the government and market together produce. That is, there is a coexistence. In mixed economy, the market provides whatever goods and services it can produce, and the government will also provide essential goods and services which the market cannot provide. So I hope you have understood the two systems, where is the capitalist, where the capitalist and the socialist systems of economy. Now, as already the introduction to the mixed economy has been stated, the mixed economy is therefore an economy where there is private as well as public ownership. As already just stated, that is coexistence of the two sectors, the market and the government coexist together. There is private as well as public ownership of resources, means of production in private sector, but the production decisions are governed by profit maximization, which is the feature of capitalism, whereas public sector works with the goal of social welfare, as this is the feature of socialism. There is a central authority because the public sector works here and the decisions of all public sectors are taken under the government, and there is a central authority to make economic decisions, and private sector is also monitored by the government. So in such an economy there is growth because the private sector functions well as its motive is profit maximization, and the government takes care of the needs of the people with the motive to provide social welfare. Hence there is growth with social justice and equity. Okay, there will be some terms which you will be understanding clearly later, like terms like equity. Okay, so now let us see what happened in the Indian context. Now we got to know about the three types of economic systems. So he, that is Jawaharlal Nehru, was not in favor of the kind of socialism established in the former Soviet Union. Why? Because it was not possible in a democracy like India for the government to change the ownership pattern of the land and the properties of its citizens as it was done in the former Soviet Union. So therefore, Nehru and many other leaders and thinkers of that time sought an alternative to the extreme versions of capitalism and socialism, which is the mixed economy. So they adopted a system which brought together the features of mixed economy. And you see here, therefore, they found the answer in an economic system which, in their view, combined the best features of socialism without its drawbacks. So therefore, India would be a socialist society with a strong public sector, but also private property will be allowed, and democracy. The government would plan, as you see here, there is a central authority to make the plans. And the private sector will also be encouraged to be part of the plan effort. So all this, the public sector will be in the leading role, but there will be private part participation in the planning efforts of the government. This has been stated in the Industrial Policy Resolution of 1948 and the directive principles of the Indian Constitution too. So on this basis, the Planning Commission was established in 1950 with the Prime Minister as its chairperson, and then the 5-year planning started. So we have just gone through the three economic systems and how the Indian government at that time adopted the economic system which was best suited to our economy.